by Ninjas in Pyjamas.
This has been a big promotion tournament thing. The teams have stuck on AD carry ban specifically. We're on 7-16, so of course the Caitlyn nerfs have adjusted the AD carry priority. Tristana is likely to follow coming through here. Now, a couple of picks are open here for mid lane specifically. The Lucian that Nagne played a whole lot actually was banned commonly for NIP, and because of the Corki ban, Schalke actually get the Tristana as their first pick.
But the Jarvan comes straight out from the Ninjas in Pyjamas, and we've seen Profit play this in the past, and Shook play it really well yesterday as well. So it's a bit of a give and take in this pick and ban.
Yeah, absolutely. NIP gets some comfort, takes some comfort away from Schalke. That Corki has been a big pick for Kadril. Now, Galio is there and available as a pick. If they do lock the Galio, Nagne could go Lucian into this middle lane matchup if they want it. Galio is there, and it looks like we're playing a defensive style from Schalke. Disengage plus now Galio on top.
It feels so much like the Schalke that we saw throughout the regular split and throughout Spring as well.
Yep.
They're putting a lot of eggs into the upset basket and saying, look, we know you're a strong AD carry. We know you're an up-and-coming new superstar in the EU scene. You need to be able to carry us on this Tristana.
Yeah, need to be able to, and we've seen Upset doing very well, but it's not the Lucian for Nagne that gets locked in, it's the Orianna. Now this is going along with the Jarvan, with the Alistair. You've got Orianna here as well for team fight. I don't think NIP will go the route that Giants might have looked to with this kind of composition, with the Misfortune, but a team-fighting AD carry, maybe even the Cogmore we saw that can stand further back, might be what NIP pick up here in the second phase of the draft.
Cog is a possibility. We haven't seen too much focus around top lane yet because NIP are probably saving that for their counter matchup, and Schalke will need to work out how they're going to interact with Profit, who has been so strong for NIP across this promotion tournament.
We'll start with taking away the Na. The Na-Orianna composition was so good for NIP against Fnatic a bunch of weeks back, and of course, with the Camille banned away, the Jax now banned away, those would have been matchups good into the Na. I wonder whether Profit will look for the Renekton here. Jax is a matchup that scales up against him. Camille is a later game matchup. Gnar is an okay matchup, and all of these are now banned away. We found yesterday Mysterious Monkeys could not get answers to that Renekton in enough time to shut Profit out, and it is available here should NIP want to play it.
Ashe has been removed by Schalke though, so we are looking down towards that next tier of AD carries here for Hikyu. Do expect the AD carry to be picked up first, and Hikyu, although not being a shining star for NAP yesterday, was very consistent on the Ashe that he picked.
I actually think it might pick the Renekton first, unless you're committed to a Cogmore. Or Sivir would be another team fighting pickup here. You give Schalke the option of Renekton if they want it. We know what Smitty J can do with a carry. You speak about how Schalke are putting a lot into the basket of Upset. It's not all in at this point. There are still options for Smitty J, but further disengage with the Gragas comes out for Schalke. They've got Gragas, Janna, and a Tristana to get out of a fight now, so whatever they pick topside needs maybe a little bit of damage, but then can also provide tank frontline. I'm looking at a Cho'Gath would be a good pick here if you wanted that mix.
And it's not often we see Cho'Gath get this far through the pick and ban phase, but it is going to be the Renekton stress. So both these teams understanding having that top lane priority is incredibly important.
Ooh.
NIP, we're not going to talk about the hover here, Stress.
No, but I'm going to talk about matchups,
Yes.
and I'm sorry to cut you off.
100% talk about matchups.
Kennen is one matchup you can play. It is a ranged bully in the lane against a melee bully in the lane. You typically would build AD. Fiora we saw is a scaling matchup. Cho'Gath, again, more of a tank frontline matchup. So all of the hovers were actually legitimate picks that you could end up getting, and that's the reason that they were actually worth talking about, because yesterday we didn't see answers to that top lane Renekton.
Is going to be the Cho'Gath in the end for NIP, and we've started to see these two compositions take shape. Now, there is still a possibility that Shook takes the Cho'Gath in the jungle, and we have Profit on that Jarvan in the top lane.
Now, we haven't seen that quite as much, and we've seen a fall-off of Cho'Gath in the jungle, mainly because to act as that primary engage, which of course they have Jarvan and the Alistair, can do that for them, but you don't quite get as tanky quite as quickly. You get limited options when it comes to instantly using that feast in the lane like you can for Cho'Gath. And Cho'Gath is so difficult to shut down in lane. All of that gold coming over to his inventory, putting it right into the items without being ganked 2 to 3 times. Cho just farms up a storm and ends up being huge
That he does. We've got two compositions that seem to be wanting to get towards the late game here, Stress. A Cho'Gath and a Sivir, so strong later on. Orianna as well, whereas Schalke had the Galio. They've got Renekton, who's a little bit more early game focused, but then the Tristana with a Janna to back him up for that late game.
So there's actually an interesting spike here for Schalke that'll come a little earlier than the late game. Because the Ardent Sense, you'll also have the Galio coming alongside, but certainly later game focus on the scaling for some aspects of both.
We are going to get on into the Summoner's Rift, Stress. Many times we throw about the phrase stacked. A stacked roster, a stacked lineup, a stacked split. That word means nothing here. Between these four walls, nothing is stacked. There is no luck, no chance. The odds are never in your favor. Player after player enters these halls and leave with nothing. Today, every single person on that stage proves their worth, proves that they deserve to stand with Titans. Today, Schalke take on NIP for the final spot in the LCS.
We have seen many teams get to this point and not quite get over that final hurdle. Well, this one for Schalke would be a delicious victory if they could finally make it there. A couple of splits in the making now from Challenger. But for NIP, they as well are desperately trying to hang on to their spot in the LCS. So do or die series for both teams as we hit this rift.
And for Schalke especially, it feels like this has been a long time coming. After they got relegated, they went down to Challenger, they revamped their roster, they brought in an entirely new lineup to face off in spring, and then they went 10-0, Stress, and they absolutely destroyed Challenger Series, and everyone was saying, this is the second coming of Schalke. This is the Schalke that we wanted to see in the LCS. This is the Schalke that can challenge for playoffs, for the finals of playoffs, even for Worlds perhaps, and then they fell against the Misfits Academy, and now we've seen Misfits Academy fall, or Mysterious Monkeys as they are now. Schalke will be looking to take that spot that a lot of them probably feel they deserved a split ago.
Oh, that's a dangerous word, deserved, in esports. You got to win it on the day if you want to get there, and that means you have to switch focus up. Now, into the game, starting off Memento, you can see already level 2. Late to the bottom lane are Janna and Tristana because they are giving that leash over. You can see Spraddle has moved forward in the lane, trying to just maybe deny Upset and Oscarin a way in. Honestly, we've seen Upset and Oscarin draft losing bot lanes quite commonly.
Is this one of those?
I was about to say not so much, because Tristana plus the Janna, you can just shield the Tristana. She will push the lane constantly. Sivir, we know, is waiting for the later game, and while Sivir can do some spell shield shenanigans when it comes to that explosive charge, can't quite push with that Alistar as effectively as they would like to. So, as you said, scaling when it comes to the AD carries on their own. I anticipate Upset and Oscarin to be able to push and be very safe in this lane.
And that seems to be what they're doing already, Stress. The Alistar, a melee matchup into the range, can struggle a little bit. Memento's looking for an early gank. Nagne's going to be flashed on the knock-up. He flashes away. Kadril, Shielded Duran, flash into it. The cleanse away from Nagne, but first blood to Schalke Null Fear.
Kadril actually just gets the first blood off the flash. Oh, it was a great trade already with Memento going flash for flash and getting the cleanse. Now Nagne ends up dying. This is how you can punish an Orianna. If you do gank the Orianna, get the flash down, normally it's a repeat gank, but Kadril and Memento having enough damage between the two very tanky champions later on into the game, but early on those base damages can work effectively. Kadril lands that last auto, gets the kill for himself. He'll be able to teleport right back into lane with some magic resist on top of it. This is basically a one laning phase for Kadril.
Magic resist, Stress. I'm pretty sure Jizuki showed us yesterday, if you get ahead on a Galio, you build full AP. It's going to be Dark Seal,
okay.
It's going to be double Doran's Ring. That was pure luck that I predicted.
Well, okay, so actually the reason that he's not going more magic resists early on in the game is, yes, you'll end up getting it for yourself, but laning items like the Dorans are very efficient, and early on you'll obviously not get the stacking mana regen, but you get the extra health, the AP, the Dark Seal helps him with the potions as well. Memento is coming right back into the middle lane because Nagne has to be careful again. No flashes means they can't get onto the Orianna, but look, Kadril's taking full control here of this lane.
And I think coming back to that first gank as well, it's important to note that although Shook is on a Jarvan who can gank early, yesterday we did not see him do that at all. It was level 6, level 7 before he was actually looking at impacting any of the lanes. Memento has always been a more early game focused jungler, and he's shown that across the course of these promotions and has been able to get Schalke ahead here.
Yeah, we've also seen him have that later game edge when it comes to shot calling. The vision control through top side is actually pretty heavily in favor of Schalke. So they know that Shook is on the bottom side. And they have an inkling that he's invading as well because of the timing of the camps not being available on NIP's side. So the only other place he could be looking is bot lane, but that ward already in the river means he's not there right now. He might be soon.
Does have the possibility of coming down here. Blastcone is available for him if he wants it. Cadril doesn't have flash in the mid lane as well, so there is always a gank opportunity for NIP there. This is something that has troubled NIP across the course of the split there. When they fall behind early, they tend not to be able to get back into the game. They tend not to be able to find a purchase on it. And we're very early on Stress, and perhaps I'm judging the book way too soon here, but I've read the first page, and it's in favor of Schalke.
Normally the first page is not representative of the rest of the book, though, Medic. That's what you've got to be careful of here.
Especially when it's one of those dedications.
Yeah.
It's like, this book is dedicated to my mother. I started Harry Potter,
true.
and it said that. I was just like, nah, I'm done with this. It's not my style of book, Stress.
This series is terrible. No. Gotta love the Harry Potter books. But I want to look again at how Shook has reacted to this. The 3 wards he placed bottom side jungle has spotted Memento. And that actually means that Memento had no option to come into the bottom side here. Of course, both bot lanes are playing somewhat defensive. It's difficult for Alistair to do anything against Janna. And Upset and Norscarin know this because Kasing shut down the Schalke bottom lane in their series against RB in the playoffs incredibly well. You can actually block everything from Janna, from Alistair as Janna. And that's what I want to see whether Norscarin has actually put more time into, because it is difficult to do.
It's purely timing based, and obviously being on LAN will help a little bit with that. We heard Gilius talking about how when you're playing CS from home, it's a little bit different, you know, when you're playing the Challenger Series because you're at home, you're in your comfortable clothes. It's not the same as playing on the big stage. This is the 4th time now that these Schalke members have been on the big stage, and they will be acclimatizing perhaps a little bit more. Norscarin, one of the newer players for the team, will need to adapt and need to understand exactly how he wants to play that lane. Grabs, talking about aggressive side lanes with a Galio in the mid lane being the dream, and you can understand that because it allows the Galio to roam around and get in with that ultimate.
And the Galio has to roam around to have that impact. Deficio was talking so much about this on the analyst desk during yesterday's series with Schalke, where the Galio was a high priority pick but never got out of the lane, at least in the first few games. It was the games where we ended up seeing Jizuki from Giants actually ending up building AP because of how far he got ahead post that level 6 mark using the ultimate. That's when he got into the game and really showed the strength of the Galio. There is the magic resist. Yes, there we go. Got that one. Easy to know magic resist on Galio, eh?
And Smitty J's actually picked up a phage in the top lane, talking of item stress. This top lane is one that we have pontificated on quite a lot because Prophet played incredibly well yesterday, as did Smitty J. And now that Smitty J's been given a matchup that wins here, it feels like perhaps he'll have a bit more impact on this game.
Potentially. Like, the Renekton is a difficult one to actually get to work for the majority of the mid-game. That's where a lot of the difficulty for Smitty J is going to come. He's going to have to push out the lane and have support from that Galio. That's the real duo that could have that side lane impact. It's a difficult one, though. Smitty J, Renekton alone won't win this game. It's that combination between the rest of Schalke.
And the reason we highlight the top lane is firstly, they're both incredibly aggressive. They like to be pushed up in that lane. Their forward percentage shows how long you spend past the midpoint of the map in the early game. And also, Prophet actually does a superb job when his enemy team has a jungler nearby and when he doesn't. That's what the JP difference is in the middle. It represents the comparison between how long your jungler is near you and how long the enemy's jungler is near him. So Prophet gets a little bit less pressure than his opponents usually do.
Yeah, yesterday Prophet got camped, was the other half of this. Playing up against Mysterious Monkeys, Kick isn't amazing to spend so much time, particularly when the games that Prophet was playing Renekton, trying to shut him down, but it just really didn't account for enough for MM to even win a game from. Prophet handled himself very well. Smitty J had a bit of an up-and-down series against Ruin, which dulled some of the numbers that we saw from his performance against Kikis, but Schalke, we were only looking there at yesterday's stats from the 2 series, so Schalke certainly will kind of have that in their mind, but it won't worry them too much. They know they can put a lot of stock in Smitty J as this solo side lane player and have him carry games.
It's worked for them throughout the course of the splits. And something else that's worked for them is Schalke looking for these ganks after he's hit the level 6 or level 7 mark. He is now level 7. Memento's trying to spot him out. There's a lot of action drawn down towards the bottom side of the map here, Stress. With 2 scaling AD carries, getting a kill on either of these will be great for your team as you get later on into the game.
And here's that push power coming through from the Janna and the Tristana. You can just put the E on the tower for Tristana and just push that health down, try and get that advantage. And every time Schalke are trying to push up, smittyj's roaming down, getting a little bit more visions, trying to find junglers, trying to make sure they can get anything. Looking even from mid lane play, forces Nagne to flash over the wall instinctively. And now Nagne has to run all the way up through the top side of the jungle, close enough to profit, that smittyj just can't chase him down.
Probably lose about a wave of experience there. And actually bot lane's been harassed down with the explosive charge. This is what we tend to see from Tristana lanes when they do have a lane they can push into, because you just put the E down on the turret, means the enemy AD carry can't stand near it, and you get damage down as well.
So much of the vision control from Schalke has actually shut Schalke out of this game. Bottom lane, they've constantly had a control ward or a ward in the river to deny him any of the shenanigans and the paths into the jungle. Schalke hasn't been able to push out because mid lane has been so far shoved towards Nagne that Nagne has had to burn his flash multiple times. So there is no pressure on the bottom lane for Schalke to go the long way around through the jungle. And that means Upset and Orskeren have been just safe to push all the way up to the tower. They've nearly killed it already. And now we're even seeing a Rift Herald play on the top side. This comes from the flash being down from Nagne because they chased him all the way through the jungle. Nagne now has to go back to lane. Nobody can stop Memento.
NIP is set behind in the early game. 1,000 gold lead for Schalke about 10 minutes in, and the Rift Herald means that they can push down a tower pretty easily. Probably going to see first tower blood down towards that bottom side as well, Stress. And if you're in the minds of NIP, coming into the first game of a best of 5, coming into a series where you're fighting for your LCS Live, this is not the position you want to be in to start off. Sparta gets the knock-up onto Upset and Orskeren, but Upset's going to reuse the jump straight in. Here's Hiku off towards the side, the shields. This is a lot of damage coming down onto the NIP bottom lane, but they will be able to use the on the hunt and run away.
Yeah, you can see NIP didn't exactly want the full trade there, but Spraddle was thinking about it. He didn't path up the river towards the wall that they could flash out and take a complete disengage from. They were trying to fight it. Now, of course, with that ultimate being down from Hiku, Memento is going to try and slip into the back of the lane here and look for a play. This is also facilitating the tower push. As soon as Memento shows, they know Schalke isn't close enough to be able to do anything, and it's just to get the tower down. This isn't necessarily about looking for kills.
Well, first tower blood, 12 minutes in, a 2,000 gold lead as well for Schalke and Unfair. This is starting off very nicely for them, Stress.
It is starting well. Profit, on the other hand, has a good start for himself in the sense that he has not had any pressure this game. There has been nothing to stop him farming. All he's had to deal with is a Renekton in the laning phase, so this Cho'Gath has not been shut down. I'm actually going to take a look and see how many stacks. 3 stacks already on Profit. Is not necessarily enough to win the game, but we were talking about how do you beat a Cho'Gath? Gank him early? Well, that hasn't happened. Gank him often? That didn't happen yet either. So Profit still is at a decent position.
I mean, there's always win the game before he comes online.
Oh, yeah, there's always that
as
too.
well. Schalke and Unfair have played a very strong early game here. They've been able to take a Mountain Drake, a tower, and perhaps a secondary tower in the mid, as Kadril has pushed Nagne back consistently in this lane, and they will get their second turret off this as well. We're only 13 minutes in, Stress. That Cho's going to take a while to scale up.
And not only the Cho, the Orianna will as well. Orianna's been losing the lane. The Sivir will as well. And look at how well things are working out for Schalke in the early game. 2 towers now from that Rift Herald that Memento basically got for free. The Ardent Sensor already completed on Orskeren. Like, this is a very clean game early on from having those pushing lanes, winning lanes as well with that Galio after the gank. And suddenly Schalke just look very, very unfazed by NIP. Very clean so far. They haven't even had to use the Galio ult yet. They haven't had a situation that needed it.
And it's been Smitty who's been roaming as well. It hasn't actually been Kadril who's been looking to join up with the team. And I wonder if at some point NIP are going to start saying, we need to take these fights. We actually need to try and push back against Schalke. And maybe that's after they lose their outer tier of towers, because it's easier to defend the second tier than it is the first. Maybe that's when we start to see 2 completed items on the Sivir, rather than just the BF sword that she's sitting on at the moment. And
the biggest problem is Sivir, we know, is a later game carry. With the Ricochet, when you get critical strike through the fight, that's all what they're looking for. But you're up against a Tristana who, with Ardent Sensor, basically because of the Ardent Sensor stats that you get and the fighting power. 2 items is enough for a Tristana to start dealing significant damage throughout a fight. So this NIP composition is kind of banking on Prophet and Nagne as well as Shook to be providing some of the damage early on, and that really isn't going to materialize anytime soon.
Do always have the Feast, which has a big burst of true damage. Sadly for NIP, the numbers aren't in their favor as well, Stress. Schalke Null Fear, when they get first tower blood throughout this promotion tournament, have an 85% win rate. That is not the sort of statistic I would like to be looking at if I was one of the NIP members.
I must admit, they probably aren't looking at that right now,
Probably not, and they can't hear me either. So if you're an NIP fan, maybe that is a dismal statistic for you to think about. But Schalke do still have to close out the game. They've been clean thus far, only needing 1 kill to get themselves a 4,000 gold lead, but that can all change in a heartbeat.
Because the focus all the way around top side here, from the vision control our observers are showing us, Renekton actually just picked up red buff on the bottom side. This does happen from time to time, and SmittyJ will be able now to have a little bit more survivability and bully potential in that bottom lane. He's Renekton already, so that's great. You basically just made Renekton even better, able to chase Prophet down. Kadril is here. This is the duo we were talking about. They get the flash.
Still haven't seen a Kadril ultimate as well, Jess.
Right.
I know it hasn't been needed, but it's odd to get to 15 minutes and not see it be used.
It is odd, it is. And the fact that Kadril drifted towards the bottom side means he's not in position for a top lane ultimate if something were to happen here. I guess the question now is, if Schalke are playing so cleanly with this push, do they need to be making dives when their composition actually isn't a diving composition in the sense of you go behind the tower? If maybe they had a Jarvan and the Alistar, I would say, okay, great. You accelerate your lead by diving behind a tower. You have a Gragas and a Janna. This is great if you can force NIP to make a fight happen, and then Kadril ults him for the damage reduction, you get the disengage, and you can actually kite back very effectively. I think this is where, when Schalke have like a 5,000-6,000 gold lead a little bit later on in this game, it's actually not too far away, that's when you'll see them start making plays.
I like the way you're predicting it already, Stress. I mean, they already do have a 4,000 gold lead.
I looked and did the math, and I'm like, wow, 5's not that much higher than 4.
It's only another 1,000 or so.
One more tower.
Going on to the other side of the rift, though, NIP throughout yesterday were actually very consistent if they managed to get a gold lead. This game, it hasn't worked out for them, but when they played up against the Mysterious Monkeys yesterday, they were very good at just slowly taking the game away from their opponents. And they have been able to delay this game a little bit. SmittyJ is getting dived in the bottom lane here as the Cataclysm comes down. Here comes the Kadril ultimate. The heroic entrance joins it up. He was going to TP in as well, but now he's in the midst of 4 members of NIP. He and Memento are going to try and turn this one around as Upset jumps across the wall. The Silence Spuddle down low. Hiku low as well. Norscarin tries to get in on the backside. The exhaust comes out. A great Monsoon knocks them back. This is Upset territory, but it's Shockwave territory as well. Upset's going to have to leap away, and now NIP are in the driver's seat. They've been able to take down 2 kills, and they're looking for a little bit more. Norscarin trying to dodge around, cannot get away from Shook. 3 kills for NIP.
Well played by NIP, looking at other options where the disengage was not, where the Galio was not. Attack SmittyJ on the bottom side because of how far pushed up Prophet was, and now NIP fire back. They finally find themselves an opportunity to answer, and there were a few small mechanical misplays out of Schalke with this disengage composition that are very difficult to make land in team fights. Essentially, I believe it was Hiku was actually explosive cast back towards the team, and because of the tornado from Janna, it actually stopped him mid-knockback. I believe that's what happened. SmittyJ just on the edge of that rupture, ends up getting caught from it. I think he thought he was out of that. Kadril, TP completes a little bit too late for the actual save here. So I want to watch what happens to Hiku. I'm pretty sure Memento throws the barrel out. The Janna Q actually blocks Sivir and doesn't push her all the way into the fight, which means she's out of range for Upset to take out. In comes the Shockwave as Schalke had started to stack. That's what we wanted to see out of Nagne in these team fights. And it means that NIP actually got out of a tricky situation off the re-engage from Schalke quite well. And NIP, good decision-making to head to that bottom side and punish SmittyJ.
Look at the damage that they put out in that fight as well. You said we wanted to see Prophet and Hiku be able to put out some of the damage in these fights. Prophet did a very good job of that. Almost 3,000 damage for him. Schalke are still able to take down that final tower in the top lane, but their gold lead has shrunk just ever so slightly, down to 3,000 now, Stress, and NIP have shown us that they have a way of getting back into this game. Let's have a quick rundown of some of these items that have been secured. Adaptive Helm for Kadril, he's going down the tanky route. almost got to play the Ruin King for Smitty J, and it is a static shiv burst for Upset.
Yeah, looking towards that static shiv rapid fire cannon a little bit later on after an Infinity Edge. We'll have the damage. We mentioned how Ardent Sense is going to augment some of the damage that comes through from Upset as well. So Schalke is still quite strong when it comes to team fighting. But that couple of misplays in that fight, kind of unlucky for Schalke, but NIP, good force on that. And you can see NIP have started to get to a point where Void Staff on Nagne, big ticket item here to make those Shockwave hurt.
And if you are an NIP fan, you're so much happier watching this NIP than you are watching the NIP of the regular split. Here they are showing that they can fight back from a deficit, which is something we didn't see them do in the LCS really at all. Usually they took a lead and then weren't able to close with it. Here they're actually showing us that Schalke are fallible. You can catch them out. You can make proactive plays even when you're lagging behind in terms of gold, and you can play to your composition and try and scale up a little bit as we get later on into the game. Schalke do have the CS advantage and the gold advantage. It's 30 farm in that top lane for Smitty J. He is on the Renekton into Cho'Gath, so that's kind of to be expected. But also Upset has a 30 farm lead over Hiku, who needs to show up on this Sivir.
Needs to, and you can see Essence Reaver, one of the crit strike items, will come out with the Infinity Edge a little later on in the game. He's going to have big power when we get post 30 minutes. We'll be able to just hit W and run all the way through. Martin doesn't really buy into the fact that full AD is going to be able to eat through Cho'Gath now. Maybe we'll see Kadril supplement some of the damage coming through. He hasn't built full AP yet, but he's got a stack. He's on the way.
Deficio saying that Cho'Gath getting a kill versus a full AD composition is just too strong. Nagne getting engaged on as well by Upset.
And that's the thing, is if you kill everybody else that isn't the Cho'Gath, then the Cho'Gath doesn't seem so scary anymore. Because Upset basically shreds through Nagne in that middle lane, forces out the flash. And that means there are still options for Schalke. It's not like their composition completely runs out of steam.
There's still options for NIP as well, though, although they have only ever come back from a deficit at 20 minutes once this split. Stress.
Was that against Fnatic?
I don't actually know who it was against.
I'm sorry. I'll ask
our
the
stats team told me. Connie was great, and she told me in my ear the stat, and I should have clarified, because I knew you were going to ask me, and now I feel like an absolute fool.
Because that was a very back and forth
absolute fool.
You don't feel like a fool, Medic. It's okay.
I think I cast that series. I'm pretty sure NIP had a lead in 20 at both of the games. We do see a Cloud Drake going to Schalke Nullfear as well. That's their second dragon of the game. And Baron is on the cards. You do have a Tristana with the Janna buff. You've got a Renekton who puts a lot of damage down as well. And they are going to start it up. Was caught out there. Spuddle gets jumped on by Upset, but he's going to turn this one back around. The teleport coming in as well. Nagne there, knocked back onto Spuddle. Hiku flanked by Kadril. Here comes Prophet, straight onto Upset. Upset's like, no, please, Prophet, please don't do this to me. And Prophet says, oh, I will. Eats him down, and Kadril unable to save his AD carry.
Sounded like NIP were even laughing as Cho'Gath ran down the AD carry. Upset just couldn't really survive from that, couldn't get himself out. I was focused on the other side of the fight because I was sure Upset was going to get away from a Cho'Gath at that point. We'll take a look back, I'm sure, to replay after this, but NIP looking for the Baron themselves, looking to try and turn around their fortunes.
They want to kill Smitty J. He's the only real damage source left. A great shockwave on 3, nor scare and die. Smitty goes down as well, and NIP are still on the Baron. Memento has survived. He has got Smite, but he hasn't got Flash. Now Kadril's going to try and get in the midst. He'll kill Spurtle. Does have the Winds of War looking for the taunt. There we go. Memento
needs to
has
go.
the body slam, but Nagne kills him. Kadril kills Wando, and he will not be able to secure the Baron as NIP managed to get it. They get the shutdown. It is a delayed ace, but Upset is actually still back up. Is he going to be able to jump onto EQ? Oh, that was close. Upset unable to get there, and NIP are right back in this game.
A smile on Hiku's face as the empowered recall gets him out of dodge just in time, and NIP able to restabilize this game after taking the Baron. We saw Upset get soloed down on the top side of this fight, so this is very prolonged exchange. Upset, there was his jump being used, and because he doesn't get a further kill or assist here, he also used his ultimate here. He still has Flash, but I want to see what he flashes for distance instead of into the pit because he doesn't want Prophet to try and flash in with him, and he thinks Kadril will have enough damage reduction to come through. But remember, that ult's going to do true damage if he finds you, and that is going to shred through Upset. NIP then started the Baron, were able to come through, and honestly, great shockwave again from Nagne. NIP in such a commanding position, and it's all about vision over the back of the pit. If there's one man that knows you need vision over the back of the pit, it's Nagne, because of how they played out yesterday. I believe Shook placed the control ward, Nagne playing body block, Q into dissonance, takes out the Gragas, and it's an easy Baron take. But Cadril didn't work in that pit. We talked about how there's AD damage basically only. Galio still will be able to deal with people thanks to Baron's help as well.
And if you can kill the AD carry before he even does a single auto attack's worth of damage, NIP know they are right back in this game. Only 1,000 gold the difference now, and NIP on the front foot with this Baron.
And now is the moment where DeVizio's words start to ring a little bit more true. Prophet can provide the front line. You can see he's tanking up so much. NIP want to engage.
Prophet's already killed Smitty J. Upset needs to get those autos down, but
again.
Another great shockwave from Nagne. Yesterday and today, he has been playing out of his skin. Is this KT Nagne once again?
Nagne reliving a little bit of his heyday. Yesterday we saw his Azir come through. Now we get the Orianna once again out of NIP, and Nagne is just hitting everything. NIP have gone from being behind to having the kind of lead that basically makes you feel like the game is over. Baron buff plus the inhibitor going down. Still 20 seconds on Schalke, so NIP on their way out can establish a lot of control here. It's not over because there are still a lot of options for Schalke, but man, NIP way back in it.
I will not get excited about Nagne. I will not get excited about Nagne. Or perhaps I will, as NIP looking to come straight back in this game. 3,000 gold ahead now. Such a monumental swing after Schalke had control of a clean early game. And if you're a Schalke fan, you are looking at this and saying, oh, not again. Not again. One step away from the LCS, and perhaps they will fall at the final hurdle. It is a best of 5 stress. Yes. They can come back, but this game looks as good as done.
Smitty J got just bounced around in this fight. Prophet ended up just nomming him as he was trying to get through the fight. Just eats the big crocodile, and then in goes Nagne with the shockwave. Cataclysm came out, and it's just a done deal at that point. When the backline is so safe for NIP and they hit everything, Schalke are going to run out of options.
And when your tank does more damage than the enemy's carries, you know you are in a good spot.
And that's the problem that Schalke have. Playing a disengaged style with the Gragas, with the Janna, trying to deny fights is when those fights don't get denied, suddenly you run out of options for the rest of the game.
And no armor penetration on Upset yet either. He's finished that core 3 items on the Tristana. He is towards that hyper carry position, but Prophet does not care. Cataclysm comes in, Prophet jumps in, but there's the taunt from Cadril, and NIP will have to disengage for the time being. Memento perhaps looking if he can jump back into this fight. Another tower fall, 6 to NIP, doubling Schalke's numbers. And NIP are just waiting. They're knocking on the door. You can see Veteran perturbed by the last few minutes of events.
It is so incredibly important that Upset now doesn't have his flash. He cannot be anywhere near Prophet. Yes, Prophet doesn't have his either, but if one piece of crowd control lands and blocks Upset's escape out of a fight, this game is basically done because the damage will fall through the floor. Upset needs that armor penetration to come through very quickly because he's facing up against a tanky Cho'Gath. Even the Jarvan right now has a good amount of tankiness to survive through the fights. All Jarvan has to do is get the crowd control on Tristana, and basically NIP win the fight. So for Schalke, they need to keep Upset safe, somehow get Cadril and Smitty J to provide that front line for them alongside Memento, and wait out a little bit longer on some of these fights. One of the worst things they could do right now is fight when that inhibitor is down, because if they lose 1 or 2 members, NIP will still be able to create pressure on the other side of the map.
Well, NIP have shown us how good they are at accelerating a gold lead and holding on to a gold lead, and now they have a 3,000 gold lead over Schalke 04. The one good thing, if you're a Schalke fan, is that Prophet has got all of his stacks for minions and monsters. He's sitting at 10 stacks now. He's got 6 for minions and monsters.
He's also got the maximum max health that he can get from it as well.
True. So yeah, it's all in Schalke's favor now, Stress. That's what you're telling me. That's what we've agreed upon here. Yeah, it's Schalke's game to win.
I don't know whether that is necessarily true.
I think you can say it's downright false, Stress, because NIP look very much in the driver's seat this game. We are seeing a bit of armor penetration for Upset. He has a last whisper now.
He is Flame Horizon's Hikyu. Like, so much is coming out from Upset, and unfortunately, it hasn't been enough.
It's because you've got a massive Cho'Gath running at you. You've got Righteous Glory, you've got On the Hunt from Sivir, you've got the Command Dissonance as well from Nagne, so he can speed you up. You're just running straight at that backline, and when something like that runs at you, you run the other way, Stress. You get the hell out of dodge.
Otherwise, Cho'Gath's going to eat the world at this point. And Upset, he is the key to victory. What a clean early game Schalke had. And this game swung all from that bottom lane engage out of NIP. When they focus out Smitty J, got the kills in the fight, Schalke just haven't been able to react with anything since. They haven't been as active when it comes to any macro game, and we already highlighted they didn't use the Galio early on anyway. And at first we thought that that was fine. At first we thought, okay, they're getting towers, they're getting kills when it comes to objectives, but they haven't really used it proactively since either.
NIP waiting for the Baron to respawn here, Stress. They are playing the game they needed to play. They are scaling up. They have a big Cho'Gath. And as much as Sivir may be behind in CS, she's still got those 3 items. Now they go for the engage. Shook onto the backline. Straight onto Upset. The Monsoon knocks him away, and Upset's managing to survive. Nagne's low. Smitty J isolating him in this fight. And still Schalke full HP across the board. The Feast has not been used by Prophet yet. He's taunted up. The silence. The hero's entrance onto Shook. That's a kill for Schalke. It's turning around. Prophet goes down as well. And Schalke win the fight around the Baron. They lose Smitty J, but Nagne will fall as well. The shockwave is way too late. Schalke, null fear. Stress, I had a premonition this was coming, that whenever they get first dragon, first blood, and first tower, they have 100% win rate, and Schalke are not gonna let that stat die today.
You've got the premonitions. It's resulting in a Baron for the medic. I mean, that was exactly what Schalke needed to get back into the fight, get back into the game. Hikyu dropped very low to start this fight off, and as we take another look at it, Schalke move up towards the Baron, and it looks like maybe they were caught. Upset actually getting caught in the collateral, Cataclysm. Comes out, that Monsoon basically saves Upset's life. The shields come through, he jumps to safety and has more time. Smitty J has took a lot of time from Nagne and Hikyu and Shook in this fight. The damage reduction comes through, and yes, okay, Smitty J takes a lot of damage, but NIP didn't get some of their key cooldowns off in the fight. The shockwave only just used. The Feast wasn't used by Prophet during the fight either, and that means NIP didn't have as much damage, whereas Upset, he had nearly 7,000 damage himself in that prolonged fight where he was safe for the majority.
And that's the thing, Upset was safe. If Schalke can keep him alive, they can definitely still win these fights. They've just proven it to us. He's now finished that Lord Dominic's regards, got himself a Hex Drinker for that little bit extra tankiness, but NIP can still layer these ultimates. Cataclysm, into Feast, into Shockwave. That's what we want to see from them. What Schalke did so well in that last fight was they separated the moving parts, they separated the players, and it meant that NIP weren't able to enact their strategy. Schalke now have a 2,000, 1,000 gold lead, but they have the Baron, and they can push with it.
Yeah, they're going to push a real fast push onto these towers. This one is very low still onto the bottom lane. Of course, with the Tristana as well, you're just going to get in range to put that E on the tower, get a couple of autos, and end up taking it down. But both teams have so much relying on their AD carries that, like, Nagne theoretically shouldn't catch Upset with a shockwave ever. Nagne would be a god if he can get it. He's got him once or twice this game, but from this point onwards, Upset should be safe. There is a Mikhails on the side of Norscarin, so some of that crowd control won't quite land. But if he does catch him, that's basically how NIP win this game. Hikyu will tidy up the fight after the shockwave very efficiently as well on the Sivir.
He is behind in terms of item, though, and behind in terms of damage. Almost half the damage that Upset has put out. He's 120 CS down, 70 CS deficit for Prophet in the top lane, and part of that is the goal. They're looking for the engagers. NIP run away from the explosive cast. Schalke, we can hear them calling for it. We can hear them shouting for these kills, but they're not quite able to break even the inhibitor towers of NIP.
And that's because they have to respect some of the defensive engage out of NIP. If NIP are able to ever get that Cataclysm Shockwave combination to come through, it would spell quite a tough ask for Schalke. Of course, there is a lot of disengage out of the Schalke lineup. It's not even just AD carry that is heavily getting out-farmed. Top lane as well, 322 to 253 at this point. Schalke have just a lot of gold generation when it comes to their farming, whereas the kills have come from NIP. NIP now up in towers. Of course, started out rough for NIP. Lost bot tower, lost mid tower. We thought it was kind of all over at that point as Schalke were just ramping up their gold lead. But Schalke have had to fight back against NIP. Last couple of seconds of the Baron buff means that Schalke didn't get a critical amount of damage done, but a couple of towers helps them out getting towards that later game point as well.
And you have to wonder how much of this mentally affects the players as well. Imagine losing this first game if you're NIP. After you go behind, you come back, you've got your adrenaline pumping, you're saying, yeah, we can beat this team. You know, even if we go behind early on, we can still take the win. And then having a team fight just go entirely against you, having the enemy basically deconstruct what your composition wants to do, and having to reset and go into game 2 and say, how do we beat them? We were ahead, we were winning, we're still looking for the fight in the mid lane as Kadril gets jumped on. Prophet pops the gargoyle stone plate, but they can't find the engage, and Smitty J has a flank here. He's looking to get onto that NIP backline. We saw Hiku have the Knight's Bow put on him by Shook in the midst of that fight. Honestly, a little bit surprised it's not going on Nagne. He's the main carry for NIP at the moment.
I mean, Hiku has become the main carry. We haven't seen it yet. We're so far into the game, 4 items on Sivir, that Nagne, his Shockwave will deal a large amount of damage, but Hiku will tidy the fights up at the end of it. Smitty J is going to be forced to flash out here. Kadril's coming in for this fight. This is a very botched fight almost.
It's a huge flank for Schalke 04. Prophet does get Smitty J, but we're going to look for that Shockwave. We're going to look for Hiku and Upset. It's the battle of the AD carries. Well, Upset the flash. A great Cataclysm. Nagne has already used the Shockwave as Schalke 04 are getting healed up by the Monsoon. It's a 5v4 in favor of NIP, but they are the ones running away from Schalke, as they are the ones demonstrating a little bit of fear in this fight.
Oh, Upset actually getting caught by that Shockwave, but it was shielded and healed all the way through, and nobody could get through to the backline.
Nagne doesn't realize! And Upset gets him. I should not have got excited because Nagne is down and Schalke 04 are looking for more. Upset,
wow.
He wants to be the best AD carry in the EU LCS, and he gets the shot rat down and the jump away. This is what we expected from Upset, from Norskeren, and from Schalke. This is what we expected to see when they came into the promotion tournament.
Upset finds Nagne on very low health, just takes him down, 2 shots, and then runs up to Hiku. The carries are down. NIP, it doesn't matter how tanky their Cho'Gath is, they cannot stop this tower push out of Schalke. That's a big minion wave, 2 cannon minions, plus now Tristana E on the tower. If they can kill Upset, maybe they can stop it.
The taunt is superb from Kadril though, and stops Prophet in his tracks. Upset trying to take the Nexus Towers, the knock up. Prophet still running for it. The tower goes down, and Upset is protected in the backline. He will shred through 1. He'll shred through 2 as well, as Prophet is trying to dance around the fight. Can't get away. An ace for Schalke 04, and game 1 in this best of 5 is on a plate for them.
Upset jumps forward. The Shockwave isn't enough at this point. It's only Nagne remaining as Schalke will take game 1 against NIP.
What a game to kick us off. Schalke show they can go ahead, go behind, and come back to win the game. NIP go 1-0 down.
Oh, that was a precarious set of fights. Upset getting caught by the Shockwave didn't matter. His team were there. Heals, shields, everything came through. There was enough distance. And then Upset finds Nagne in the middle lane, trying to recall to get back to base quickly. 2 shots him, moves aside to Hiku, 4 shots him, walks through the base, and even at the end, like, Prophet on this Cho'Gath very nearly found Upset. Like, Sprattel did save Upset a little bit, knocking him away with the Alistair, trying to connect to the headbutt, but it wasn't quite there for Prophet. He couldn't get the feast off, couldn't close the gap. Schalke 1-0 up.
And so often we talk about momentum in a series.
We'll have to.
Yes.
He played a pretty good game.
He did. He played a very good game, but the momentum you have to feel is now in favor of Schalke 04. After NIP came back, you thought perhaps they would be the ones taking that positive attitude into game 2, but Schalke there made mistakes and were still able to win the game. And I don't feel as much that NIP made mistakes in their team fights. They still did exactly what they wanted to do. It's just that Schalke were able to counteract that in the game.
I think so much of it comes from some of the fights that set up for Baron, where Schalke were actually able to keep Upset safe, and that is why Schalke like playing around Upset, is if you give this guy the room, the space, and the gold to carry, he will do it 9 times out of 10, and that's a great thing for Schalke to kind of rally around. But for NIP, we saw glimpses of good plays out of them. We saw team fights where the ultimates landed, the fight bottom lane against Smitty J that disrupted the flow from Schalke, but I still think we're in for a very even series.
We'll have to wait and see. Schalke started with a win in this series. Let's send it over to our analyst desk for more on Game 1.
Thank you very much, Medic. Yes, an even series. Hopefully we get some more exciting games like that. I want to go back to picks and bans because of some of the strong feelings that my guests had. Andre, during picks and bans, you were very happy with the first rotation on the side of Ninjas in Pyjamas. You can see on the bottom of the screen the Jarvan and Alistair. But then you really didn't like the Sivir. Why is that?
I mean, there are a couple of things that I don't like of the draft of NIP, even though I don't think that was the biggest reason why they lost. First of all, they gave Tristana to Upset. Yesterday was perma-banned or first pick by us. Upset cannot have that champion. He will completely 1v9 the game. And then they see that they have a Galio, that Schalke has a Galio mid, that they already picked Chana, so they are not going to pick a really aggressive lane. And since you have the Alistar, what you want to do is you want to pick an AD carry that is actually able to push Tristana in, so that your Alistar can play outside of the lane where he can be more effective than Janna. I think that with Varus it would be way more effective than with Sivir, because Varus has a better wave clear early on and can contest better the waves into Tristana and Janna. And if they don't do that, if they don't pick an AD carry that can actually kind of fight that against the Tristana, they are going to have 2 pushing side lanes against the Galio and against the Gragas that Memento, I think, had a really clear and good game plan into this game of camping mid and giving insta-mid prio, so that Galio could play completely free the game and both side lanes could push whenever they want, however they wanted.
Gilius, you were talking a lot about the early game, how good Schalke looked. I mean, by 10 minutes at a 1,500 goal lead, by 15 minutes, 3,500. Like, how good was Schalke's laning phase, for the first 10, 15 minutes?
I felt like the early game was actually flawless. Like, they played really well around the winning lane they had on the bot lane with Tristana Janna. They took the first tower. They did great rotations. They swapped it up the lanes, took the top tower. Like, it was really looking flawless for Schalke until that Nash happened.
We've got 2 replays of that. Let's look at the first Baron Nashor fight that goes in favor of Ninjas in Pyjamas. Gilius, as this comes up onto the screen, now this is a little late into the game. We've seen some back and forth already, and as you can see, Upset was caught. So analyze what's happening here in the 5v4 for me, Gilius.
Wait, what's this?
This was the first one where Upset got caught at the back of the pit, and NIP took the Baron.
The big problem about this play was Schalke had a great setup around Nash with a lot of pink wards. NIP was basically blind. They were forced to face check. Schalke just needs to be a bit more patient. They need this one leader in the team that tells everyone to calm down, wait for them to face check, just execute the macro a bit cleaner. So I think...
Yeah, that was the problem,
I think that's a big problem. Like, they're just not patient.
Andre, the second replay, this is the one where Schalke end up winning the Baron fight. Upset goes untouched. Let's pull this one up onto your screen. And Andre, talk me through this 5v5.
I mean, the best thing that happened here and never happened before this fight is that Janna is actually playing on the side of Tristana. So Tristana can play completely freely, and then Smitty J does actually a really good job combined with Memento of zoning Orianna that was the main damage away. If we see the Shockwave wasn't used because Smitty J was chasing Orianna, forced his flash, forced his cleanse because of a really good engage as well as Memento. So that's why they win this fight.
You could highlight that Schalke played it better, but NIP just went for a kind of stupid call. Like, both of these teams just need to calm down a bit more around the Nash. Set up the vision, let the people come and don't instantly start the Nash. Like, when you start Nash, you get a huge debuff, like on yourself, that you get a lot of more damage. So, I don't know.
Looking for smarter calls, looking for calmer calls.
I mean, what's interesting about the series so far from the pick and ban, both teams kind of gave a message. We want to go full team fight, as both teams are saying it in the drafts. So, both teams are playing a slow and steady early game, and then going to team fight in the mid game. So it's going to be a really interesting series.
Just before you close your thoughts here, Andre, we have one last replay. This one's just for you, of course, because you said don't give Upset Tristana.
Don't.
And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
What do you say to your players who get caught recalling like that?
I would say my bad, Tristana was open.
Okay.
100% I would say that.
Okay, Gilius, at the beginning of the day, I asked you about mindset. This is a game that there have already been some back and forths, some mistakes and some punishes. What do you think this does to Schalke after they win early game, lose mid game, and then come back almost miraculously?
I mean, it's a extremely big confidence boost for them because the last game they played before this was a game 5 against us where they actually had a slight early lead and then they just lost it all, you know. It was their chance to make it to the LCS and they lost it all. So winning now the game 1 is huge for them because many players in that team are really emotional guys. Like
Yeah.
I saw the tweet of Memento earlier. He was tweeting like, I'm gonna play my heart out today. I'm gonna give it all I have.
Yeah.
It's how do you say it?
It's really
Last chance, yeah.
Yeah, it's the last chance.
It's
yes.
very heavy. I mean,
So he's really emotional about it. So this is big for them.
they lost to your Cho'Gath, but they beat NIP's Cho'Gath.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see what happens in game number 2. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Schalke definitely want to take that final spot in the EU LCS. That's a solid start to the series, but meet us back here for game 2.